All right, students, I'm going to show you how to make the cutting board. I've taken you guys through the process of making the plaques, right? So I want to show you the next project that you would be making if you were here. It's the cutting board. Okay, so we've got the plan, tells us all our dimensions. We got the plan of procedure that tells us all the steps start to finish. The first 10 steps you already know how to do. You did them for the plaque. Okay, that's gluing up the panel to size. So we would have to glue up a panel rough size, right? This is finished size, 12 by 16 and a half of finished size. So we want to be 17 and a half by 13. Okay, so we've got our panel glued up. Do you remember we got our long board? We had to calculate the board feet. We had to mark the long board, cut it on either the miter saw or the radial arm saw to rough length. Then we took it over to the table saw. We would cut it to somewhere around 4 inches width, not much bigger than that because of the growth rings and the warping. Once we did the table saw, we would flip every other one in grain, mark it IO, join it, right? Remember that? Join it, IO, I is in, O is out on the joiner. We would then take it over to our clamp table and dry clamp it without glue. If it looked tight, every joint looked tight and good, we would add our glue. Remember that process? The next day, we'd take it out of the clamps, we would scrape our glue off, and we are ready to plane surface sand, and we're gonna take it basically from step 11, we're gonna take it all the way down to 21, and then I'll do the CNC router part for you next time. And then we're ready to talk about our graphics for the cutting board. So how do we get from this to this? That's what I'm gonna do for you right now. All right, so we're going over, we're gonna turn on our vent system. It's on here, so I need to turn it on. Oops, maybe it's not on, okay. Red means go, right? Silence, reset, and start. Coming over to my surface planer, I've got 2 panels here, right? Remember, it only cuts on the top side, so I just cut this top side. I'm gonna flip it over, roughest side up. I'm gonna turn it on. I've got my thickness set already. With the grain. Need another pass, don't I? Remember, we never reach into the machine. Let's take another full turn. Roughest side up. We want to leave it as thick as possible. Our plan says 3/4. Let's measure that. There it is. Looking for my dial calipers. So we're at 0.725. Okay, a little thinner than I'd like, but that's okay. You get the idea. All right, so I need to set this at 0.725, and we're gonna surface sand it. Let's see if I can keep it under 50 here. Roughest side up. Right there. Wouldn't want to be any tighter than that. Okay, looks good. I'll flip it. Here's my catcher board, or pusher board, backer board. I'm gonna go at half a turn. Tighter, roughest side up. Use the other side of the belt. Right where I want to be. All right, looks good. 4-step process. Let's turn this off. You remember the 4-step process? What's step 1 of the 4-step process? Do you remember? We join an edge, straightest edge. We'll go ahead and joint, making sure my gate, I don't have a gate on this one, so we're good. Let's turn it on. Pushing up against the fence. Okay, jointed edge. Let's mark it. Other one. Jointed edge. I'll run that twice. It was a little more crooked. All right, we turn that off. That's step 1. Step 2, do you remember? Step 2 is over to the table saw. Remember what our size was? 16.5, right? Let's set it up to 16.5, right there. Okay, 16.5. Jointed edge against the fence. Let's run them. Groove is showing. We don't need to use push sticks. Step 2. Remember what step 3 and 4 are? Gotta cut them to length now. Okay, we went with the grain. This one's across the grain. So we just got our 16.5, so now we're looking for 12. I'm gonna go grab my pencil. Had it in my ear, but it fell out on me because of the GoPro. Okay, this is the straightest edge, so I'm gonna go with jointed edge against the fence. I'm gonna take off the straightest edge. We've got an extra inch, so I can take off around a ½ inch. Okay, let's go ahead. That's step 3. Flip it over, measure 12. Step 4. Jointed edge is against the fence. I come out just far enough to make my cut. Okay, should be square and to size. Now we're going over the next step on my plan of procedure is to cut the circle, the hole. The plan says come in, you see it? 2 1/4 by 2 1/4. So I'm gonna decide which corner, doesn't really matter. Let's do it. 2 1/4 inches by 2 1/4 inches. Should be real close. Yep. 2 1/4 by 2 1/4. I use a scratch awl. I make a dent or a hole. That way I can easily find it with my bit. Can you see the little point on the bit there? It's going to cut a circle that is 1.5 inch diameter, 0.75 radius. So here we go. I'm going to find that hole. It's right there. All right. I'll hold it down. Here we go, cutting our hole out for our cutting board, nice and slow. All right, so it'd have been easier to hold if I had it clamped here and here, right? That would be a better idea than the way I did it. Okay, so that's what I'll have you guys do. We'll clamp it down. Whenever you're using a drill press and you got small parts, you can clamp it. That frees your hands. Okay, the next step is rounding our corners. The plan says a 2-inch circle, so I've got my circle template here. 2-inch circle. I line up my mark. Okay, line it up tangent. When I use the bandsaw, I want to leave the line. Okay, I'll do a couple of these. Well, let's go ahead and do it all the way around. 2-inch circle, right? There's that one, and there's that one. We are ready to cut on the bandsaw. So I've got the height adjusted. I don't want it more than a 1/4 inch above my wood, and it's well underneath that. I'm just going to knock off the corner.